Okay, students, today we're going to learn about the surface planer. Here's a picture of our surface planer. Here's the front view that we have. But really with the surface planer, everything happens here on this side. So we're going to come in here and we're going to see the front here, and we're going to look at the side view here. So on our surface planer, we got the in-feed side right here, and then it goes through to the out-feed side over there. Okay, students, so I've gotten this little diagram to help you out. So we just looked at the side view on the planer. So now we're going to kind of give you an artist rendering of what that kind of looks like. So we got our big box to our planer here. So as we put our board into the planer, it comes in on this inside and it comes out on the outside, just like we tried to show you there on the planer. But what's happening inside is what the important part is. So here, I've got my in-feed rollers. They're going to take the wood and they're going to shove it in. They're going to shove it past the head, and so this is what's doing the cutting. So on the planer, it's shaving or cutting the wood on the top side. It's going to shove it past the head, and then it's going to hit the out feed rollers. So these are my out feed rollers right here. And that's going to continue to push the board out. So on our planer, we have a couple of different rules. And one of the biggest rules are the board has to be 12 inches long to go through the planer. And the reason for that is because from our in-feed rollers to our out-feed rollers is 12 inches. If we send through a board that's smaller than 12 inches, say like this eraser here, so as I put it through a smaller than 12 inches, the in-feed roller is going to push it through, then it's going to get stuck on the head. There's no out-feed rollers to pull it out. So that's the reason why your piece has to be 12 inches long to go through the planer. Okay, students, so today we're at the planer. We're back at the planer learning some basic things about it. Today we're going to be planing down this board. Now this board is about 1 inch thick, about 6 inches wide, and about 13 inches long. So as we come to the planer, we understand it's got some basic parts. The basic parts are going to be, I've got my stop button and my start button. I've got my in-feed table, that's here on the front side. I've got my dial over here on the side that I'm going to adjust the table up and down on. And then I've got my readout device right here. This will tell me in fractions of an inch or in a decimal what the thickness that I'm going to be setting my planer to. So as I come to the planer, I realize it has some basic rules. First of all, we have to plane with the grain. So this wood has grain in it, as all dimensional wood should. We're going to plane with the grain. So it's going to go through this way. The board has to be 12 inches long, like we talked about in the classroom on the board. Because of the in-feed rollers and the out-feed rollers and the big head in the middle, between my in-feed and out-feed is 12 inches. So I have to have 12 inches on my board to be able to safely go through the planer. On the planer, we want to set it so it doesn't take off more than 1/16 of an inch. So 1/16 is the maximum amount we can take off as it goes through. But really the planer is very, very simple. Now, one of the biggest things is the margin of safety. On the margin of safety on the planer, I've got to worry about not getting cut by the head. I've got to worry about this section right here. With the power rollers, as I start it and I go in, then I got to worry about getting pinched. And I have these zones I can get pinched on. So right now I got to set way down so this slides in, so there's no real pinch points. But as we set it to normally run it, this is where you'd normally run it. So we're worried about these pinch points on the in-feed table. So the margin of safety on the planer is a 4-inch margin of safety. You need to stay 4 inches away from the pinch points. But what I normally do is just teach you to keep your hands away, put it in, and let it do its thing. Okay, students, now to use the planer, we hopped over this side because this is where the action kind of happens. So I take my board, and the first thing I do is I measure. I measure and it comes out to be 15/16. So I look on the chart on the wall. 1/16 less than 15/16 is 7/8. Now I'll come over here and look on the chart here. For 7/8, the decimal equivalent is 0.875. So I come over here to the dial in, and I see where I'm at. Right now I'm below, so I'm going to go up the up direction to 0.875. So I set it exactly where I want to send it through. And it's going to get noisy as I turn on the dust collector and send it through. But as I send it through, I put it in. It's going to shave it off the top, and I'll show you that. And then when I go through the next time, I'm going to have to tell it to go smaller. on our planer, smaller is 1/16 is one turn of the wheel. So you notice I'll turn it one turn smaller to get it down. In this case, we're going to take this board down and we're going to turn it down into 3/4 of an inch. So it's going to have to go through 3 times to get 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to do one side, flip it over, turn it smaller, do the other side, turn it smaller, and then I do the ugly side. So whichever side looks like it needs to have more done on it. Okay, so go ahead and turn on the dust sucker. That's going to suck the dust away. That's very important. I got on my safety glasses. I've got it set here so I'm good to go. Turn off the stop lock on the stop and hit the on button. Okay, send it through. Just let it do its thing. Pick it up on the back side. So I got my not done, my done side. So I go one turn smaller, that's 1/16. Flip it over, send it through. So this will be 13/16. One more to get down to 3/4. So bring it up so I'm close. Check it. 3/4 is 0.750. Slowly go so I'm right on 0.750. And send it through the back one more time. Just that easy. When I'm done, turn it off, and you're good to walk away. Okay, to finish up, there's a couple of things about the planer that we need to hit that are also going to be on the safety test. First of all, that big hit that we have in here is about 220 little carbide knives. Now, carbide is a material that is harder than steel that we have in the shop for cutting the wood and keeping it sharp. That works out great as long as we're not cutting anything harder than the carbide. Things that are harder than the carbide we need to worry about are going to be nails, staples, screws, and rocks. So our basic rule is we only want to send through new material. If it's sat on the ground, if it got set on the ground or a driveway, it's going to have little rocks embedded in it, and that's not only going to dull the knives, it's going to cause them to blow up. And if they blow up, then we got to worry about all the chunks that are going to be coming out this way. Basically on the planer, as we're using it, we don't want to look in it for that same reason. Any chunks on the end of the board or anything that wants to come off, it's going to shoot this way. So the machine is big to keep most of that in, but the little bits that come out are going to be right there at your eye level if you're looking in. So we want to avoid looking in. So earlier we said we want to plane with the grain. We also do not want to plane any man-made material. We don't want to do any plywood. We don't want to do any particle board or MDF, and we also don't want to do any boards that have grain going multiple ways. So like this is an example of a frame. I've got grain running this way, this way, this way, and this way. So this is not a piece that we can send through the planer. We usually send through the individual pieces before we join them and get them put together into the frame. And then after we glue it together, we'll go to a sanding operation, but not a planing operation to make it smooth. So this is an example of a frame, and we do not do the frame. So new material, free of rocks, nails, staples, screws. We want to go through only up to 1/16 of an inch at a time, and the planer is a pretty easy machine to learn. You'll have fun using it.